Here in the heart of China, humans have been battling against nature for more than a decade. China is pitting the age's most advanced technology against the mighty Yangtze River. The result is the biggest and most powerful dam ever built. Employing over 40,000 people, it's China's biggest project since the Great Wall. From the groundbreaking to the completion of the world's largest ship locks, this film chronicles the progress and price for the world's biggest and most controversial dam. This is the story of the Three Gorges Project, China's mega dam. In August 1998, China was devastated by the worst floods in 44 years. Over 3,000 Chinese lost their lives, and more than 2 million were displaced. The same number driven from New Orleans by Hurricane Katrina. 2 million troops were rushed in to fight the Yangtze's rising waters. The world's fastest and most dangerous river was living up to its reputation. Throughout that month, soldiers and farmers fought in vain as one by one the dikes collapsed and lives were lost. An area the length of Colorado was flooded. The human cost was enormous. At their height, the floods affected nearly 300 million people. That's equal to the population of the United States. The people of the Yangtze suffered disastrous floods, on average every 10 years. In the last century alone, floods have killed over 300,000 people. From the days of the emperors to the communists of today, China's leaders have dreamt of stopping these disastrous floods. They now think they have a solution: to complete the building of the world's biggest dam and tame one of the world's most dangerous rivers. Started in 1994, this is the world's largest construction project ever. 40,000 people have worked day and night to make this dam happen. The dam will cost $25 billion. But this staggering figure is still $1 billion less than the cost of the August '98 floods. When completed, the dam will be 1.4 miles long and 607 feet high. That's just as long and more than twice as high as the Golden Gate Bridge. It is one of the few man-made objects that can be seen clearly from space. In order for the dam to succeed, enormous hurdles have to be overcome, and potentially devastating consequences must be faced. No nation has ever built a dam so big.
The Three Gorges project is just hyperbole about everything. It's the biggest dam, it's the most expensive dam, the symbol of man's ability to control nature. So it's kind of the biggest of everything.
But size is a challenge Chinese engineers overcame with skills and ingenuity. Their biggest battle is against nature. The dam is being built in the middle of an earthquake zone. If the dam were to collapse, it would be an economic and humanitarian disaster on a scale never seen before. But China is pushing the limits of 21st century technology to accomplish this incredible feat. If they are successful, the rewards for China's economy will be endless. Positioned on the Yangtze 1,200 miles upstream from the great port city of Shanghai, The dam will act as a plug. It will control the river where it narrows through a series of canyons called the Three Gorges. The first general manager of this massive project is one of the world's most brilliant and respected engineers, Mr. Liu Yumei.
In order to stop the floods in the lower Yangtze, we need to contain the water during high water periods in a man-made reservoir created by blocking the river with the Three Gorges dam. We can then release the water from the reservoir in a controlled fashion to prevent flooding. This is the main reason we're building the dam, to prevent flooding.
The dam is being built on a river that's been the lifeline of China for the last 5,000 years. For most of the world, the Three Gorges is known as one of China's biggest tourist attractions. Today, they remain a natural wonder that may not survive the building of the world's biggest dam. The dam will cause the waters to rise over 400 feet throughout the gorge, altering their beauty forever. When construction is complete in 2009, it will supply 1/10 of the electricity for China's 1.3 billion people. But how does a dam work? Daniel Beard is one of the world's leading experts on water technology and large dams.
We build dams across the river, and what that does is impound water behind the wall or the structure that's built. And then water is diverted either through the dam or around the dam through turbines to generate electric power. The fascinating thing about large dams is that they take on a life of their own. They become symbols of a country's arrival as a first world nation or a developed nation. They become symbols of what is owed a people or a community. They become symbols of people's use of technology.
But how do you go about building the world's biggest dam? The first step is to create a dry bed for the dam's foundation. To do this, workers built a new channel around the site that diverted part of the river's flow. This diversion channel carried the entire flow of the Yangtze and accommodated all the river traffic over the first 6 years of the dam's construction. In order to build the diversion channel, the workers blasted through solid rock. For the dam workers, this is one of the most dangerous jobs on the site. Detonators are made by taping sticks of dynamite to a fuse. The dynamite and the fuses are strapped to long sticks of bamboo before being shoved into pre-drilled holes. More dynamite caps are placed in the hole before the explosion is triggered. A warning siren indicates workers must retreat from the blast site. In the first year of construction alone, workers detonated more than 80,000 sticks of dynamite, a blast force equivalent to 20 Hiroshima atomic bombs. The fallout from these explosions fills the air. Every day, 15 tons of dust smothers the site. The rubble from the blast site is used to build 2 temporary barriers known as cofferdams. Water is then pumped out between the 2 dams, leaving a dry bed on which to build the foundations of the dam's main wall. This is one of the most dangerous phases of the whole construction process. Until their cement core is built, the cofferdams are made of rubble, which is simply dumped into the river. At this stage, they are extremely unstable. Dump trucks worked in an endless rotation to lengthen these temporary walls. Soil removed from the riverbed loosely binds the rocks. Then pumps inject bentonite, a liquid clay and cement mixture, into a trench in the middle of the cofferdam. The bentonite takes a few days to dry out. Eventually it hardens into a substance strong enough to form a backbone, which will hopefully prevent the cofferdam's collapse. When the liquid sets, it will remain flexible enough to prevent the structure from cracking under pressure. When the cofferdams are completed and made safe, the water trapped between them is pumped out. The riverbed will then be dry and work can start on the dam's central section. The workers have to race against time and the weather to shore up the cofferdams and make them secure. The scale of this giant undertaking is formidable. If a flash flood were to occur at this stage, the cofferdam would collapse and send a huge tidal wave down the Yangtze, overwhelming everything in its path. China continued to test the limits of engineering as the main dam wall began to take shape in 1997. Dozens of giant cranes took over the work of pouring concrete. 350 buckets of cement, each weighing 20 tons, are lifted into the main dam wall every 24 hours. The proportions used in mixing the cement must be determined scientifically, as local climatic conditions affect the drying rate. It takes 5 minutes to swing each giant bucket across the void to the top of the dam. Once there, it is tipped into a pre-formed casing, where it hardens into a block. One small piece of the dam falls into place. On this site, women as well as men are employed in some of the most skilled jobs, including crane operating. These are the largest cranes in the world. Operators have to take an elevator and then climb 400 feet just to get to work every day. As the operator swings the enormous bucket of concrete, engineers below indicate the exact spot where it should be poured.
Since September last year, we've been operating right up here at this height. It's much higher than before, but it honestly doesn't scare me too much. To tell you the truth, once you get used to it, the actual height doesn't bother me. It's all the same to me. Just a moment. I have to give it my full attention. It's really complicated up here. There are other cranes around, and you have to be very careful to avoid collisions.
Like most of her co-workers, Feng Tse Huai and her family will live amid the noise and dirt of the construction site until the dam is complete. But it's not just the workers who have endured the brunt of the dam's construction. Officially, 1.2 million Chinese people are being driven from their homes over the course of the project. When the Three Gorges Dam is complete, the water level will rise behind it to over 500 feet, creating a reservoir nearly 400 miles long, where once there were thriving river communities. The biggest worry for all those involved is not the technical challenge, but the fate of the million or so people who live along the shores of the Yangtze between the dam and Chongqing. All these communities along the riverbanks will have to be moved.
The biggest problem is resettlement of people who live in the reservoir area. With the Three Gorges Dam, we can protect the people in the lower reaches, some 15 million people. But it will cause problems for the people in the upper reaches, which will be submerged. Currently, that is about 840,000 people. By the time the dam is completed, by natural increase, this will have become 1.13 million.
But experts disagree about the number of people being resettled.
I asked the Chinese when I was there, I said, what's the largest number of people you've ever moved for a dam project in your history? And they said 250,000 people in the 1960s. And my assumption was that at that time they were done at the end of a bayonet. Well, now you have a much different country, you have a much different China, and you're going to move 2 million people?
The water started to rise when the river was blocked off in 2003. The reservoir will be completely full by the year 2009. 2 major cities, 140 towns, 1,350 villages, and nearly 100,000 acres of farmland will disappear. In 2004, the reservoir was longer than the Grand Canyon. The people whose lives have changed the most are not the city dwellers, but those who have lived along the fertile banks of the Yangtze for generations.
The impacts of being resettled on a community are enormous. I think it's hard for anyone to really understand what it's like to have your entire community and culture displaced. And if you are displaced by a dam, it is probably the worst thing that could happen to you, almost. Your entire culture, your history is gone.
In some villages, the past survives in name only. As late as 1999, walking through Yinyang was like traveling back in time. Women spun yarn as they had for centuries. The miller ground winter corn and summer rice on the same millstones used by his grandfather and great-grandfather. Housewives cooked with the traditional wok. The village was almost self-sufficient, producing its own food, making its own clothes. The streets had never heard the sound of motorized traffic. It was a unique way of life. Through self-sufficiency, the village survived centuries of turmoil. This is where the ancient village tree stood for centuries. This was time-hallowed ground that had to be abandoned forever. In 2001, the village was moved up to Yinyang New Town, a government settlement built 500 yards up the hill. Here the villagers will have to start again, without any reminders of their past. The miller and his wife have a new house with luxuries like running water. But many people complain that they miss the sense of community they once enjoyed in their ancient village.
The Chinese people endure it, they move on, and then they will restart their life. And I guess the Three Gorges Dam project is another good example. And people, so they're so used to the hardships. They say, well, just another bad government telling us to do certain things, and then if we can make it through it, then there are going to be better days tomorrow.
After 8 years of construction, the holes were transformed into the shipping locks stretching out over 4 miles. The The Three Gorges locks are a double system, one for upstream traffic and the other for downstream. Construction was complex, but the concept is simple. Water flows into a series of holding tanks. Once sealed, they can raise or lower a ship up to 100 feet per lock. The locks can accommodate a ship weighing up to 10,000 tons. All the locks are controlled by engineers from the navigation control room. Our team was one of the first Western film crews to gain access to this highly secure room. Like air traffic controllers, these technicians coordinate every movement of every ship through every lock.
10、8、9、10、10号续的那就行了啊。车通803。
好嘞，你看到我的噻。
After the ship enters the first lock, the controllers close the 800-ton doors. With the push of a button, 300,000 gallons of water fill the lock at 100 gallons per second. It takes almost an hour to fill each lock. Five locks and 4 hours later, the ship exits the final set of doors and continues its journey down the Yangtze. The Three Gorges project has been a boon for large ship commerce. In the city of Chongqing had reached critical levels.
When you build a dam on the main stem of a river, it completely changes the hydrology of the system, and you go from a flowing system to essentially a lake. Whatever was downstream that depended on certain volumes of river, certain volume of sediment, now doesn't get that.
Sediment, or silt, is the term used for the fine particles carried out to sea by fast-moving rivers. With the new dam, the Yangtze flows much slower, and the silt has nowhere to go.
The Three Gorges Reservoir is going to be the length of Lake Superior, and most of the silt is going to start piling up at the furthermost end of the reservoir. When the silt starts to pile up at the upper end of the reservoir, there's very little that the dam operators can do with that problem. People have predicted that this is going to create a huge flooding problem upstream.
But engineers believe they have anticipated the
In the flood season, normally from May to September, we keep the level of the reservoir as low as possible.
They lower the reservoir by opening sluice gates at the base of the dam. The water released contains most of the silt, so man does with technology what nature does naturally. But as a major technical problem is addressed at the dam, 1 million human stories are unfolding on the upper Yangtze. By the time it's finished, this will be the world's biggest power plant. 32 hydro-powered generators will produce enough clean energy to supply up to 10% of China's electricity. That's enough power to light up Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C. combined. This is the heart and soul of the Three Gorges project. When complete, it will produce almost 19 gigawatts of electricity.
Hydropower is electric power generated using the energy of falling water. There's only one law that you need to generate power, and that's the law of gravity. As long as we don't repeal gravity, water's going to flow downhill, and as it flows downhill, we capture it, divert it through a tunnel, and run it through a turbine, and as the turbine spins, it creates electricity.
Once the Yangtze rises to full height behind the dam, this gateway will catch the flow of water and drop it 300 feet into the turbines. After spinning through the turbine, the superheated water is pumped back into the Yangtze through underwater pipes. This half-mile-long concrete bunker is home to the generators, or turbines, that store the electricity that will power China. The massive turbines are lifted into place by specially built cranes that ride on rails along the top of the bunker. They are the largest turbines in the world, and the Chinese paid a fortune for them, $150 million apiece. But despite concerns over dam safety, there is no doubt that the hydropower from the Three Gorges Dam will go a long way to alleviate the crushing pollution problems that China faces. China is the world's largest producer and consumer of coal in the world. It accounts for 70% of the country's total energy consumption. Carbon emissions are damaging the environment. Few Chinese remember what a clear day looks like. The Three Gorges area of Yangtze, from Chongqing in the west to Wuhan in the east, is the heart of industrial China. Smoke from these factories has made China one of the world's biggest polluters. Every year, acid rain falls on over 2/3 of the country. China's leading cause of death is heart disease, caused by the burning of coal from steel smelters and rolling mills. By eliminating the burning of coal, the air would be noticeably clearer, and smog levels would decrease in most major cities. The Yangtze is the second most traveled river in the world. Only the Mississippi carries more ships along its shores. The fast and dangerous waters of the Three Gorges have long been a shipping bottleneck, but the dam's construction has widened and deepened the channel, allowing more ships to travel up and down the river. The dam's sophisticated lock system has already tripled the area's large ship commerce. But building the world's largest dam wasn't enough of a challenge for Chinese engineers. Now they're building the world's largest ship lift, an elevator for boats. Here, the foundations of a ship elevator are being constructed. The elevator will be a vast steel box driven by a mechanism strong enough to lift a 3,000-ton ship inside. The box will contain 13 feet of water, enough to keep a ship balanced. It will be like carrying a modern destroyer up and over the Washington Monument in just 42 minutes. The installation of the lift, combined with the locks, will more than quadruple the cargo traffic of the Yangtze. But this grand idea may never get off the ground. Engineers have built the housing for the lift, but not the mechanism to do the lifting.
You have to lift all the weight of the water, which is very heavy, and the weight of the ships inside this, basically a bathtub. It's just such a heavy load to be lifting on a track that it's a very difficult thing to design.
Today, the Chinese say the lift is still a work in progress. Others say the Chinese may have overreached. Just daring to build such a gargantuan machine shows how determined the Chinese are to keep traffic moving along the Yangtze. But with great risks comes the possibility of great economic success. as China hurtles away from communism and embraces capitalism. Megacities are the main beneficiaries of the dam. On the South China Sea lies the industrial and commercial powerhouse of China, the great city of Shanghai. Recipient of much of the power from the dam, this city is the engine of the Chinese economy. But with the Yangtze much more navigable due to the dam, a new industrial dragon has emerged in central China. This is the urban heart of the municipality of Chongqing. It is home to over 30 million people and is one of the largest metropolitan areas on Earth. It is now challenging Shanghai as one of the great industrial cities of capitalist China. So fast is Chongqing changing that the city has a saying, turn your back for a day and you won't find your way home. Every street corner, every block is inhabited by cranes and builders. This is the China promised by the Three Gorges Dam.
We're moving people off their lands so that the benefits of large dams can be shipped off to cities or to large farmers, many of whom don't need it as much. The sad thing to me is that the people most in need aren't receiving these benefits. If we really care about helping poor people, there are myriad other ways of doing it that are more direct and more effective.
Yet backers of the dam believe it will save more than livelihoods. It will save lives. It started in 1994. It won't end until 2009. Around the clock, work on the world's largest dam continues. Now on the brink of completion, the Chinese have almost accomplished an engineering feat that many considered impossible.
It's like looking at the Great Pyramids. People say, how in the world did they build that?
Chinese officials recently reported that work was progressing even faster than anticipated. They are nearly a year ahead of schedule. But the building of the largest dam in the world has come at a price. Rising waters have swept away ancient villages that have existed since the beginning of time.
We're building large dams in the name of alleviating poverty. And the sad thing to me is that the people most in need aren't receiving these benefits.
The dam is going to bring us lots of benefits, but of course you have to take the good with the bad with the good. I still worry about those people who have been relocated because I still remember their smiles.
When the Three Gorges Dam is fully operational, then a great nation will have truly built a wonder for the ages. The dam is a result of modern engineering ingenuity, combined with the ambition of a sleeping giant awakening to the future.